My name is Elise Weber. I'm a co-founder of Skytra and also the Chief Sales and Marketing Officer. And Skytra is a 100% Airbus-owned subsidiary. We are based in London. We are 25 people. And being a co-founder actually means that together with a colleague of mine 3 years ago, we had the idea, really only on a Post-it, to create this new entity or to create a new product for the aviation industry. And this new product is actually a product for enabling them, our customers, the airlines, to better manage their risk. And we have now created a set of benchmarks measuring the price of air travel around the world. And this will enable our customers to hedge the revenues as a complementary hedge to the fuel hedge. So the costs are already hedged for a long time, but the revenues couldn't be hedged in history so far because there was not an instrument for doing that. And so we created this new set of benchmarks measuring the price of air travel. So if you think about being an airline, you can then lock in your costs, lock in your revenues, protect your margin in between, have a greater financial stability, and therefore you're able to do all the investments you want, and of course potentially also invest in aircraft. And this is why Airbus is interested in this. So I have a double diploma in communication and marketing, double diploma in French and in German, because actually I'm half French and half German. And during my work career within Airbus, I then decided to make an executive MBA on top of it. So I did it while I was working. It was quite challenging, but it was definitely worth it. Really no typical day. The joy of my work, and this is why I love what I'm doing, is that there is not really a routine by which I do the same thing every day. So it depends on your character, but I do love it. So I can start my day, for example, with a hiring interview for a new employee, then continue to a contractual discussion, and then go on to a customer meeting where I have to introduce a new product. And maybe then it's followed by an interview with a journalist. Then I will maybe review a press release and maybe then prepare a board meeting. So there is really a whole, let's say, bunch of topics I'm covering, be it from press, media relation, contractual discussion, customer meetings, business development. And I really do enjoy that. So I'm afraid to say I don't have really a typical day. Somebody who likes new stuff. I get bored if I have too much repetitive tasks, and therefore, like everything which is linked to administration, processes, policies, is something which is pretty boring for me. Everything which is, let's develop a new business, let's bounce off some new ideas, test these ideas in the market, get the feedback on it. This is the type of work I really love. And what is key for me is to be able to work with many people. It always gives me a big boost of energy to interact with people. And this can be just an individual or a group of individuals. But the more I actually interact with people, the more I get energized, and which actually then drives, innovation in my day-to-day life. Different ways I decompress. The first thing I do regularly is sports. So I have decided for myself long time ago, actually 10 years ago, that I would cycle to work. And since for the last 10 years, I've been doing that successfully. I haven't stopped. When I was living in Toulouse, I was cycling to work every morning. So it's half an hour in, half an hour out. And then I moved to London. And that was my primary objective when looking for a flat, was it needs to be in a cycle distance. And I still keep on doing that. And this is actually the most valuable time I have. The best ideas, I always have them on my bicycle. So I better not cut that out of my day. So this is like more the sports part. And then I obviously also have a family. I have a husband and 2 kids. And I really block the weekend and dedicate that to my private life, to play with my kids, to support them in their education, whatever we do, and really just try to not think of work, and this is my quality time with my kids, and I really do protect that. Obviously, Skytra is a bit my baby, or let's put it in another way, I'm the co-founder of Skytra together with a colleague of mine from Airbus, and therefore I highly identify with Skytra. So for me, my next steps are actually to make Skytra successful. And well, in the next 3 years, we really want to bring our new risk management products we have developed for the aviation industry to market. And we also want to extend the use cases of these indices. We actually are looking into 3 or 4 different use cases. So it's one, operationalizing what we have brought to market and ease the adoption, educate the market, and then also business development in finding new use cases for these indices. So there is lots of work to be done, interact with banks, interact with airlines, interact with travel buyers and travel sellers. And ultimately, this will then materializes in licenses, data licenses that we sell for our regulated indices. So I had different roles within Airbus, and one of my last roles before creating Skytra was in business development. And if I have learned something in my career, is that you have to listen to the customers in order to come up with new solutions for the customers. And you shouldn't bring out something just for the sake of bringing out something. You have to actually satisfy a pain point or a need of somebody. And in one of these customer workshops, we had an airline with us, and this airline wanted to buy our aircraft, but the airline was struggling in terms of financing this aircraft, because airlines typically have a good view on their cost, but they don't know what they will be making next month. 90% of tickets are bought in 90 days before travel. So as an airline, you don't know how much you will make next month. And so how can you make like long-term investments like an aircraft that depreciate over 25 years if you don't know what you will be earning next month? So this was the starting point. And then with a colleague of mine, we had this idea that was saying air travel derivative. And this was, the birth of the famous Post-it. And this air travel derivatives, the idea behind that was there is lots of financial instrument out there that permit airlines to manage their risk on the fuel side, on the foreign exchange side, or even for interest rates. They can hedge themselves and protect themselves against volatility. But there is nothing to protect them on the volatility of revenues. And this is the biggest risk they're facing, because, revenues are 4 times higher than fuel costs. And this is how this idea emerged. So then from the idea to creating a company, there was, of course, like a long journey. But in a nutshell, what we were doing is we were working in an iterative way. It means we were creating some prototype indices, going to the airlines asking, what do you think about that? Would that be useful for you? How would you use this tool? And then airlines were giving us feedback about, I like this, I don't like that. Then we went back and forth, and we were working with a dozen of airlines. And after a while, the concept was really mature, and we brought it to the executive committee of Airbus and introducing this concept, saying, look, our customer thinks it's a great idea. If they hedge the fuel, the revenue, they have a greater financial stability, it will benefit the whole industry, and ultimately they will be able to invest in aircraft. And it's key to be able to invest in new aircraft, because new aircraft actually also dramatically reduce CO2 emissions. So if on like a global scale, we want also to keep our commitment in reducing CO2 emissions, our customer need to be able to invest in this new technology. So it has a whole like virtual circle, and our executive committee saw the big potential for the industry and said, go build the company up. And together with my colleague, we went off to London, and we started with nothing. We didn't even have an office. And so we started from being 2 of us together with a coffee machine and a printer. And now 2 years later, we're 25. We are regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. And yeah, we are bringing the product to market. So it's really, really exciting. I would see a professional career actually as also a big chance to discover yourself. At the beginning, I was starting off in communication and marketing, really, and I didn't know I wouldn't end up in aviation and finance. But in my first jobs, and I think it doesn't matter where you start off working, what you need to find out is actually who you are and what you're good at and what you're bad at, because everybody has strengths and weaknesses, but you have to play on your strength where you can really make the difference. Don't focus on your weaknesses and the things you really can't do, because you will never excel. You will never be better than anybody else. So if you focus on your strengths, but if you know your weaknesses, you can build a strong team, because you can find other individuals that will compensate your weaknesses. Because there's one thing everybody should remember, is that if you want to make stuff happen and big stuff happen, you won't be able to do it alone. So you have to count on, a team. You have to build a fan club, and you should choose your fan club with the right skills that complement actually your gaps. And so this is, I think, the biggest advice I would give anybody who is starting a professional career, is use this every job you're doing to learn who you are, and then actually play on your strengths strategically when choosing your next position.